Shalom, family. Shalom. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Welcome to another edition of Desiring the Milk. As we continue to go through the basics, the foundational understanding of the Bible, all praises to the Most High. We're back again. Your brother Nechmai got Young Lion Julian here. And as fitting, we talk about a young lion. We're going over young men's use of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Trying to go through that transition of being a young man, a child, a young man into a man. That's what your brother here is kind of going through. So I just wanted to go through it because it's important. It's important because a lot of people have knowledge. They have knowledge. They know the commandments. They know what's required of them. Not necessarily know they know what's required of them, but they know about the law and the commandments. A lot of people would deny it, but they lack the understanding of it, which is important. And then the wisdom to deal with things attached to it flees them. That's an old African proverb. You know it? I ain't going to say it because I'm going to butcher it, but that's the difference between a young man and a full-blown man. All three of those things work in harmony: knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. At least it should be, because a lot of times we rely on experience to equate to wisdom. But a lot of old people lack knowledge and understanding, right? So we're going to give all honor and praises to the Most High before we start. Thank you for giving us the ability to know your word. So we're going to talk about it a little bit. But this is what the Bible is trying to teach us, man. He's trying to teach us how to use all three of those things in harmony. When we give ourselves to the Lord, these three things work in harmony. And then it works on building a mighty man of God. Let's go to the book of Proverbs first, Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 1. And we're going to go through a little bit. Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom.
This is the book of Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 1. Hear ye children the instruction of a father, and attend to know understanding.
So this is Solomon talking to his son. This is what any father should be teaching their children. Not just their son, but their daughters also, because they need it also. But we're specifically dealing with sons, because we're going to have kind of a Q&A with your boy here. Right? So heed the instruction of the father, and tend to know understanding. Read.
For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law.
So what law is he talking about? Talking about law of the Lord. And if you read Malachi 2 and verse 7, knowledge equates to the law. A lot of people know the law. They know thou shalt not kill, remember the Sabbath, but they ignore all those things. They don't know how to apply the knowledge which comes by way of understanding. Right? Application of the law is you understanding what's required of you. And it deals with a lot of things, like the Bible deals with a lot of things, because we know you have friends, but how do you deal with friends? How do you know they truly are your friends? That's what the law teaches you. When you get understanding, the application of it, how to deal with certain things. And then wisdom is an experience as you go forward. Right? So read verse 3.
For I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also and said unto me, let thine heart retain my words, keep my commandments and live.
See, keep the commandments and live, because we know if we keep the commandments, we will live. It says, he taught me also and said unto me. Who taught him? We're going to get the actual what he taught him. He said he taught him the law. Retain my words, meaning hold them dear to me. Read verse 5.
Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth.
Read.
Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Wait, and she shall persevere thee.
That's preserve. You said it right the first time. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. That's your life. Wisdom and understanding. Read.
Wisdom is a principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding.
Get understanding, because, like I said, a lot of people have experience. A lot of people have knowledge, but it's the understanding how to deal with those things, how to deal with the law in every situation. That's what young men lack. And we should be, as older men, teaching our sons and their daughters how to deal with certain situations with the law. If we do those things, we will preserve our life forever, because it's a lot of things in this world that's going to trip us up. right? But in this day and age, we don't really prepare our young men and women. We don't prepare them to bear the burden of being a husband. Not necessarily a burden. I said a burden, but you understand what I'm saying. It's not a burden, but all the things that come with being a husband, you being a leader, right? A father, a leader in your community. We want to give our kids all grown up responsibilities without giving them the tools to deal with those things. So, like I said, we're gonna have like a Q&A. So, young man here, he just graduated high school. And we kind of like started keeping the commandments, what, about 5-6 years ago? And it was a transition because, I brought them up in the ways of the world. It wasn't any structure or whatever. Kind of, we had structure, but it wasn't anything to do with knowledge, which we know is a law, and understanding what's required of us. So I guess my question to you is, how was it going to school and being in the midst of all these people, learning the commandments and actually applying it? How did you deal with those things?
I mean, it took me a while to kind of get rid of being called weird, or like, especially with the whole friend. I think that's the one I dealt with the most, was people saying that I was wearing a dress.
Yeah.
And yet, like, it kind of affected me because it was like, bro, like, it was making a big deal out of it. And it was not necessarily that I was ashamed. It was just like embarrassing to like
be different, right?
No, not that. It was just like, because it was in front of a whole lot of people. So like, it was just like you're outing me in front of all these people. But I think it just comes with maturing and growing up and not really caring what other people think, because I can get fly regardless. Let's be totally honest.
Yeah, so keeping the commandments, that's what the Lord kind of called us to be different, right? In Matthew 5 and verse 17, it says, let your light shine before men. That was you actually showing your light. Did you ever explain to them what it was to mean to wear fringes?
To some I did, maybe not in depth, but
yeah,
most of the time I didn't, because I didn't feel like they deserved an answer, because you're already embarrassing me by saying that I have a dress on and all that. So like, bro, you really don't care what I say. You're still gonna just
So I mean, so what you went through was just going with experience how to deal with certain things, and we all go through those things, even as adults, right? We don't know how to deal with certain situations because, like you say, you may feel embarrassed or whatever. But those experiences is what we call wisdom. Now you got the law, and it tells you what to do, which is let your light shine before men. Now you got to use understanding of why we do it, right? Because we're called to be lights to everybody. And like you said, we're going to be hated. That's what the Bible tells us. We're going to be hated and considered weird for what we do. But I like that we're doing this class because, like I said, you're in the midst of going to high school, which is, in itself is a whole nother different thing. You got all these different personalities. People don't even know who they are, right? But it's our job to give you the strength to push through. So it was kind of different, wasn't it? Right? But you made it through and you graduated. Now, as you go through this process of being a man, you can use those experiences in the next section of your life, right? And to being a godly man. And I think you being a young man, you're in a position where you kind of feel like you're a man a little bit. You think so?
I don't think I'm a man because I don't necessarily deal with things that you have to deal with on a daily basis. But I do take on like responsibilities and like I'm a young man. It's like I'm a man in training. So like, I'm a young man. So like I still gotta I do things on my own. Like I can be responsible and all that on my own, but I still need help.
I think this is an important part of your life because I don't want you to be a little child. I want you to be, like you said, a young man in training and understand that you're right at that point, but you still need your parents, right? That honor your father and mother. I really feel like that never goes away Because if you have a father and mother that's teaching you to keep the commandments, we still got to have counsel from people, right? What better people to get it from than your father and mother? So what does it look like to be a godly man? I'm asking you, it's a rhetorical question because we're going to get it, right? This is the basis and foundation of what it means to be a man, right? This is what Solomon was taught by his father. So let's go to the book of First Kings 2 and verse 1. You say you're a young man in training, and so we're going to try to guide you, just like David did with Solomon, to keep the commandments. Because in it, it's going to tell you how to deal with friends, how to be in certain situations, and use wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to deal with anything, right? That's what the Bible, that's what the commandments teaches you. First Kings 2 and verse 1.
This is the book of First Kings, chapter 2, verse 1. Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and shew thyself a man.
Shew thyself a man. That's what we want for our kids. When we leave, we want them to be able to stand on their 2 feet in the laws and statutes and commandments of the Lord and deal with everybody, brothers, sisters, mothers, friends, the nations, according to the law. Because we know in that, like it said in Proverbs, you're going to preserve your life by doing those things. Verse 3.
And keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and commandments, and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself.
That's heavy in that last part, because it says that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself. When we read Hebrews 11 verse 6 last week, it says that we have to believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. He wants to reward us. So no matter what situation that we're in, we keep the laws, we will prosper, whether in this life or the next, right? So this is a standard from the time, y'all are born until the time, you have it. It's keeping the commandments. That's how you keep yourself. And it comes our way as parents by doing this right here. Proverbs 22 and verse 6. We're trying to build up the next generation of leaders. And if we're not doing this, we're failing the next generation. And I hope, and I'm glad that, your mom and I, that we finally came to our senses, because we tried the best way that we knew how. It was the wrong way. It was leading y'all to failure. Now we do this right here. Proverbs 22 and verse 6.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
So like I said, we, from a child, from birth, we kind of grew, basically, we brought you up in the ways of the world. We thought we had morals, but it wasn't according to knowledge, which is the law. So it says, when you shall depart, when you get old, you won't depart from it, right? You won't depart from it. But when does the Lord determine that you're a full-blown man? Right here it says when you're old. But what we try to do as a people, we try to get rid of our kids fast. 18-year-old, they're out. But what do y'all really know at 18? You're 17. You're almost about to be 18. You think you know a lot right now?
Not really.
You know some things. I say you know some things. You're getting some experience. But you're still a kid. But this world tried to tell you that at 18, you can go to war. You're ready to lay your life on the line. Here in America, it does. I know some other places it's kind of younger. But we try to get rid of our kids too fast. They're young men in training, and when they go out into this world, they're not prepared. I look back at my life. It's like, man, I was a kid having kids, and I know I really messed y'all up for a point. But especially about the word, because the world doesn't teach you how to fight, not physically, but spiritually. It doesn't show you how to have temperance, which is restraint. The world doesn't show you how to work through conflicts or how to deal with your emotions. It tells you to lay into your emotions. But the Bible, the law, it teaches you all those things. And at 18, your brain ain't fully developed just yet. And the spiritual growth is not there, especially because you ain't been in the word. But let's see what the Bible says at what age or how you should be in becoming a man. 1 Corinthians 13 and verse 11. Because it has to be a switch. That light has to go off. And it comes with much practice, much experience. Now, you have some experience with dealing with people at school, right? That environment is right for people to make you feel bad. That's how it's going to be in the world. So you got some practice and you kind of built yourself with the scriptures. So that's how you prepare yourself. But 1 Corinthians 13 and verse 11.
This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
So when you're a child, understood as a child. You didn't have full-blown understanding on things. Your parents were teaching you, right? You didn't have the experience to go through the things that like your brother per se. You know, he's 9 or 10. He's 10 now. He doesn't have the experience of having to go to work and do those certain things. He's still a child. His mindset is not there. You got some little bills now. So it's different. So like you said, responsibilities you're getting. So the child thinks different from a young man and from a man. But when you become a man, you put away those childish things. What are some of those childish things? What does it mean to be childish? We're going to go through a couple here in a minute, but what do you feel like it means to be childish?
Like the way you act on certain things. I think honestly, like one thing that I think is like laughing at things that like aren't really funny.
So
And, like,
maturity per se.
Yeah, like
Okay.
becoming mature.
Hey, I got a script for that. We're gonna go through it. But children sometimes kind of selfish. They think about themselves, and we're gonna go through what a man is, right? A man has to forego himself most of the time, sometimes, right? But a child is all about them because you're in that position where your parents take care of you. But as you grow older and you put away those childish things, you understand it's not all about me. It's not all about me, right? And so that's what we're trying to build you to. But go to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 20. And it speaks about a child ways. This is a good thing about children, though. But it's going to say something. And it said it right there also, understanding. But it says it in a different way here. 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 20.
This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 20. Brethren, be not children in understanding. Howbeit in malice be ye children, but in understanding be men.
So it says, brethren, be not children in understanding, because children don't have the understanding on things. They lack it, right? Because they don't have to deal with a lot of things that adults deal with. So it says, don't be children understanding. So men, they have understanding on things, right? It says, how being in malice be ye children. Why do you think that is? Malice. Because children forgive quickly. So that's what he's calling us to be forgiving. So be as a child when it comes to malice. Don't be so soon to hold on to grudges and bitterness. Children are good with that. But when it comes to understanding, that's how we should be men dealing with things, not as children. But where does understanding come from? It comes from the Lord. And the way you get it is by the things you go through and applying the scriptures. A child is covered by the parents. Not saying that they don't go through things, but for the most part, a child is being prepped. They're being prepared. But it's like you said, young man, your little brother doesn't go through what you go through. Just like you don't go through what I go through. That experience helps you grow that understanding when you apply the scriptures. Children don't necessarily have to do that per se. They're kind of guided along. And it's good because in Proverbs 22 and 6, we're training them up. You don't take the training wheels off of a bike if a kid doesn't know how to ride a bike, right? What are they going to do?
I mean, they got to learn somehow.
You're going to fall off and bust their head. That's how you're going to make them learn? That's how I learned how to swim. My brother just threw me into the pool when I was 2. He said, you better survive. That's basically what we do to our kids nowadays. We throw them in this world and we tell them to survive. That's not good. That's why you got kids experimenting with drugs and all these different things. We're not preparing them. That's bad, man. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. But going back to 1 Corinthians 13:11, it says, when I was a child, I dealt as a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. You said the maturity aspect. Go to the book of Proverbs 22 and verse 15. Because he's going to say a word when it comes to children. I equate it to kids having their head in the clouds.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 15. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him.
So it says foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. Foolishness. Always in the midst of something. Always getting into something. But that rod of correction going to drive it far from him. What rod of correction are we using to drive it from y'all? This Bible. That's why train up a child while he is young. That's why discipline is important. Because if you don't learn discipline at home or third authority at home, where are you going to learn it?
In the real world?
Yeah, and what are they going to be as graceful or merciful to you as your parents would be?
No.
So children are foolish. They let their imagination run wild sometimes, which is not a bad thing sometimes, but they don't have the responsibilities as a man. So you got to prepare them to be that young man and man to be. But a man is able to apply what he's learned and deals with things he goes through scripturally. He lets the scriptures be his guide. That's what we're trying to build you to be. And in that, you're going to have success. But a young man like you are, man, you're right in that sweet spot. Not a little child, but not yet a full-blown man. You got to prepare yourself. This is a time where some may want to push the limits. Not understanding may be to his detriment. I've been there, and me pushing the limit had me have kids at a younger age. I wasn't prepared. And I bumped my head and I did things wrong. That's why it's up to us to let you know that you're not a man just yet. Hold on. That responsibility is going to come. And we need guys. You still need a guide. I mentioned earlier, you're at that sweet spot where you still need a guide. I still need counsel sometimes. A lot of the times, that counsel doesn't go away. Because the Bible says before every enterprise, seek counsel. That's what we got to get used to. A trusted counselor. And I want to go over this relationship of Timothy and Paul. 1 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 1. Read it.
This is the book of 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 1. Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ by the commandment of God, our Savior, and Lord Jesus Christ, which is our hope, unto Timothy, my own son in the faith, grace, mercy, and peace from God our Father and Jesus Christ our Lord.
I love this example right here because Paul became the advisor. He became his guide that Timothy didn't have. And so much that he started considering himself to be a father, to hold this young man as to be a son. Why did he have to step up and fill the role? Because a father didn't do his job. And we got a lot of fathers nowadays that aren't doing their job to raise young men. Let's get that. Because I don't think we understand what happened here. Paul took Timothy under his wing. Acts 16 and verse 1. And this goes back to the thought that your blood is your family. A lot of people outside of your immediate family, because we're all blood, can become your family. And we shouldn't get so wrapped up in getting, I guess, sad when the people that we grew up with or raised us, you don't deal with anymore, because there's somebody out there that can fill this role. Acts 16 and verse 1.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 16, verse 1. Then came he to Derbe in Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, and believed, but his father was a Greek.
So what's going on here?
He has two different people, like his parents are two different nationalities.
No. So first of all, And I get that's what we've been told, right? So when we see Greek, that's Israelites that have taken on Greekish customs. His father was a non-believer. That's what's going on here. Timotheus was a disciple. He was a follower of Christ. So, but his mom believed. She believed in Christ. She kept the commandments, but the father didn't. This is a household out of order, right? So that's what's going on here. And that's why Paul came. He saw this brother, like, man, he's a believer, but his father ain't doing his job. That's what's going on here. The mother is a believer, but the father's not doing his job. Read on verse 2.
Which was well reported of by the brethren that were at Lystra and Iconium.
So he was well reported, and his mom was well reported, and it was known that, man, this is his brother, his young brother, and his mom believes, but the father ain't worth nothing. That's what's going on here. Read.
Him would Paul have to go forth with him, and took and circumcised him because of the Jews which were in those quarters, for they knew all that his father was a Greek.
So he came and he guided him. That's what Paul did to Timotheus, and he started considering him his own son. He started guiding him. This young man needed guidance, how to become that full-blown man, and he gave him the guidance necessary. So that proves, right, that it doesn't matter what age that you are, we all need guidance. It's the same thing with all young men in the 15 to 19-year-old range, right? If they don't have that guidance. I stopped there for a reason too at 19, because we want to get something here in a minute. But we know that the commandments is a teacher to become a man, because it prepares you. It teaches you how to treat your brethren, how to take care of a household, a wife, does it not? What does it say about a man that doesn't take care of his household?
He's worse than an infidel.
Yeah, worse than an infidel, worse than a non-believer. That's what the commandments teaches us. But how should you be before you get those things? You're prepping yourself, are you not? Right now, you don't have those things, but you're prepping yourself. We're going to get some examples here in a minute. Got David, right? That he prepped himself before he had to actually put it into play. But we got the examples of how to be good fathers, how to be good sons, how to be good leaders. We just aren't put in those positions to have that experience just yet, but we can prepare ourselves. And we prepare ourselves with the law, because it tells you how to be a father, how to be a husband. Go to the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 11. This is what we should be teaching young men, the young men and the young women also. I'm not throwing them away, because it's the same concept, how to bring them up. 1 Timothy 4 and verse 11.
This is the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 11. These things command and teach. Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, in purity. Until I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrines.
So you see that? This is what Paul is teaching his son. He's taking on that role. It's the same thing we should be teaching our young men. Don't let nobody despise your youth, because a lot of people see you being a young man, but you're keeping the commandments. In that is wisdom. You got the knowledge and you're actually applying it. Don't let nobody despise that, because people, like I said, think just because you are 70-some years old or 60 years old that they know more than you. But if you're not keeping the commandments, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And the same criteria for the young man, the same foundation is the same for the elder man. And if you have that, that means you know more than the elder man. But it's just the roles are flipped. The elder man should be teaching the younger man how to become that full-blown man. But we've lacked that so far. Just like you said, when you went to school, if I hadn't prepared you how to deal with that situation, that's on me. It's not on you. I'm supposed to prep you for those times, so you don't, get discouraged and things like that. Did you ever get discouraged keeping the commandments going to school? Did you ever feel like you were being left out of situations?
I mean, yes, but I just had to grow up. Like I can still go places. I just gotta keep a command.
Yeah. So, because keeping the commandments is a foundation. And let's go to the book of Titus chapter 2 and verse 1. Because the elder men are supposed to be teaching the younger men. But sometimes it's reversed. We got a lot of younger men nowadays that know more than elder men. Read.
But speak thou the things which become sound doctrine, that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, in patience.
It's a lot of things going on here. Speak and do, which becomes sound doctrine, that the aged men be sober, which is vigilant, being able to identify situations, grave, temperate, showing that restraint in situations, sound in faith, in charity. And we're going to get a lot on charity here lately, in patience. That's what an older man is supposed to have. You think it's the same thing for the younger men?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Go jump down to verse 7.
In all things showing
verse 6. Verse 6. Sorry, verse 6.
Young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded, in all things showing thyself a pattern of good works, in doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity, sincerity, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you.
See, a good reputation. That's the same way that the older man is supposed to be sober mind, have a sound mind. The young man is supposed to be the same thing, because you're a full-blown man in training. You're not supposed to wait till you're a man to have all these things. You're supposed to be able to hit the ground running when it's time for you to be that leader. But you got a little guidance here. That's what people at your age need to start accepting. But again, the world has said that you're a grown man at this time. It's leading you to failure. It says, young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded, and all things showing ourselves a pattern of good works, and doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity, sincerity, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed. So people are supposed to see the way that you are and be ashamed. Like, man. And that ashamed may come off as hating sometimes. That ashamed may come out to be them making fun of you. We got to be ready for that. And that them saying that you weren't addressed, that's because they lack the understanding what's going on. But that's why it's important for us to be able to explain that. From there, is this taught nowadays? All these things that we just read, to be sober. I don't think so. Are we preparing our young men to be leaders of the future? I know so. We're not doing that. Or are we furthering the man children who don't know how to self-regulate? That's what we're doing. Man child, a big man child that thinks it's all about them. And then when it's time to actually lead, it's too late. You're 70-some years old, but now you're trying to give people advice, or your children advice, when it's too late at that point. Sometimes it's too late. It's never too late, but we shouldn't wait till we're 60 and 70 years old to say, I want to be the man of the Lord called me to be. It starts now. It really starts when you're younger. That's why it says train your child up. But at your age right now, you're almost in the age where you can be married and lead. But let's get some more on age, because we look at age differently. 7 years old, we think they have all the wisdom. They don't. Job 32 and verse 7. In Timothy, it says, don't let people despise your age. You know more than some old crusty grandfathers. Job 32 and verse 7.
This is the book of Job, chapter 32, verse 7. I said, days should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom. But there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth them understanding.
Yeah, you see that? So the spirit in man, the word, is what gives you understanding. Days should speak, but it doesn't, because they're not in the spirit. They lack understanding of things. In their experience that they dealt with, They constantly making the same mistakes. You shouldn't be a 6-year-old man having financial issues, trouble. Did you not figure out that you gotta, learn how to save your money? That experience doesn't amount to anything if you're not using the law and using the understanding how to deal with situations, how to deal with, a man that's been divorced 2 or 3 times and he's 60-some years old. He doesn't have it. There's something wrong with him. That's how we should look at it. You've been married 2 or 3 times, really, and you still don't have it? Something wrong. Because the Bible tells you how to deal with your wife. Man, I've been married 3 times, so I know better. No, you haven't. You failed 3 times. That's what's going on. You failed. That's how we look at that. You failed. You didn't do something right. But you're trying to teach somebody who's been married as young for 10 years and how to be a husband. I ain't taking no advice from that person, right? But when we get 2 examples about what it means of wise young men, that's what we're going to go through here in a minute. And it should be encouragement to the youth to strive for wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Because wisdom from the Lord determines your age. Let's go to the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4 and verse 9. It's not all about years and the things that you've gone through. It's about how you applied knowledge and understanding. And in those experiences that determines your age. Wisdom of Solomon 4 and verse 9.
This is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, verse 9. But wisdom is a gray hair unto men, and an unspotted life is old age. He pleased God and was beloved of him, so that living among sinners he was translated. Yea, speedily was he taken away, lest that wickedness should alter his understanding, or deceit beguile his soul. For the bewitching of naughtiness doth obscure things that are honest, and the wandering of concupiscences doth undermine the simple mind. He, being made perfect in a short time, fulfilled a long time. For his soul pleased the Lord. Therefore hasted he to take him away from among the wicked. This the people saw and understood it not, neither laid they up this in their minds, that his grace and mercy is with his saints, and that he hath respect unto his chosen.
Read.
Thus the righteous that is dead shall condemn the ungodly which are living, and youth that is soon perfected, the many years and old age of the unrighteous.
You see that? So a lot of times, your age don't really mean anything. So we got to look at age differently. A lot of people think because they have age, have been through stuff, that's it. But how did you deal with those things? Did you deal with it spiritually with the word of God? Or did you use your own mind? Not saying that those experiences aren't valuable, but dealing with things righteously is perfection. It says, but wisdom is the gray hair unto men, and an unspotted life is old age. Your righteousness is what determines your age. Because in the end, that you're going to get forever if you do that. But that goes back to not letting people despise your youth. If you're applying the commandments and you're using your understanding in it, you have more wisdom than some gray-haired old fools. That's what it is. Dealing with things righteously is perfection. Go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, Sirach, chapter 34 and verse 8. Young men's use of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, when you use it all together, it's harmony in it. It's perfection. It makes you perfect. Read.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 34, verse 8. The law shall be found perfect without lies, and wisdom is perfection to a faithful mouth.
You see that? Love that verse right there. The law is perfect without lies, and wisdom is perfection to a faithful mouth. Read.
A man that hath traveled knoweth many things, and he that hath much experience will declare wisdom. He that hath no experience knoweth little, but he that hath traveled is full of prudence.
So this is that you been through some things. You traveling. If you don't travel to certain parts of the world, you wouldn't even know they existed. A lot of our people stay in the same community for years and never branch out. So you going through some things gives you that wisdom. But how did you deal with them? Did you deal with it according to the scriptures? Or did you just go through it blindly? That's not smart. Read on. We're going to get to a point here in a minute. Read on, verse 11.
When I traveled, I saw many things, and I understand more than I can express. I was oft times in danger of death, yet I was delivered because of these things. The spirit of those that fear the Lord shall live, for their hope is in him that saveth them. Whoso feareth the Lord shall not fear, nor be afraid, for he is his hope. Blessed is the soul of him that feareth the Lord, to whom doth he look, and who is his strength. For the eyes of the Lord are upon them that love him. He is their mighty protection and strong stay, a defense from heat and a cover from the sun at noon, a preservation from stumbling and a help from falling.
So you see all that? So it's not how much you traveled, but how you traveled. It says, for the eyes of the Lord are upon them that love him. He is their mighty protection and strong stay, a defense from heat and cover from the sun at noon, a preservation from stumbling and a help from falling. That's that you keeping the commandments and living. It's you using the law of the Lord, which is perfection, the law, because the law is perfect, right? You understanding what's required of you when you applying it. And now doing those experiences, you gain wisdom how to deal with everything. That's the process right there. Getting that knowledge. Okay, what's required of me? Keeping the commandments. Okay, do I understand what this means right here? Where it says to prove a friend. Why is it important to prove a friend? Does the Bible tell you why?
Yes, sir.
You want to get it? Let's get it. Sirach 6. Verse 7. Let's go there. Why is it important to prove a friend? This is knowing, having the knowledge of it, right? You're supposed to prove a friend. Prove a friend. That's it. Well, why? Here's the understanding piece of it. Read.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 6, verse 7. If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him.
Okay, so that's the law, right? Prove a friend. Don't be hasty to credit him. Here's the understanding part of it. Read.
For some man is a friend for his own occasion, and will not abide in the day of thy trouble.
That's the understanding. So you can know this, right? Even not having friends. And then you get a friend and and apply it. That's wisdom. You know how to deal with people. Because a lot of people want to be your friends just for their own benefit. Have you experienced that? You may not. That's just the experience part of it. I have. They only want to use you when they need you. Got to prove them first, because some people would turn your life upside down, all on what they want from you. They see something in you that they want and need, and they're going to use it to a point. So that experience helps you deal with the next time you deal with that situation. You deal with it according to the law. And what does it say? Prove a friend. So now let's go to young men that didn't necessarily have the experience. They lacked it a little bit. We're going to see immediately what they did. I had you read this. So 1 Kings 3, we're going to start at verse 5. Talking about our brother Solomon. He lacked the experience. He lacked wisdom how to deal with situations. What did he do? Read.
This is the book of 1 Kings chapter 3 and verse 5. In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, ask what I shall give thee. And Solomon said, thou hast shewed unto thy servant David my father great mercy, according as he walked before thee in truth and in righteousness and in uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept for him this great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. And now, O Lord my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father, and I am but a little child. I know not how to go out or come in.
So was Solomon a little child?
No.
How old was he? About 20, something like that, right? But he considered himself a little child because he lacked the experience. He lacked the understanding and wisdom. What did you say about wisdom? It's the gray hair of men. When it came to ruling and being a king, he considered himself a child. That's a good thing because children are willing to learn sometimes. And we got to be willing to learn also. So let's see what Solomon asked for. Read.
And thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for a multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people?
So he had asked for understanding to judge the people correctly, to judge in righteousness, to be righteous. This is an awesome thing that he's asking for right here. He's not thinking about himself. He's thinking about doing something better for his people. This is you becoming a man right here. Foregoing yourself and thinking about other people. That's what it really means. When you can get to this point right here, you have that purpose of doing better for others. Because you know, in the long run, yourself is going to be taken care of. Read. Verse 10.
And the speech pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this thing. And God said unto him, because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, neither hast asked for riches for thyself, nor hast asked the life of thine enemies, but hast asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and an understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee.
So he gave Solomon a wise and understanding heart. And right after this, he has to use it. If you read down in this chapter, he has to use correct judgment and use wisdom, because two women came to him about a child, right? What did he do? How do you determine who was right or not?
He asked one of his servants for a sword, and then he was like, he basically, like, he was saying, get the sword and cut the baby in two, and y'all both can have it in half. And then one of the women was like nonchalant about it, and the other one was like, no. And then that's how he determined that the lady that wasn't nonchalant, that was her baby.
So he was able to get wisdom because he understood that the real mother is going to do what? Not want this child to die. So that's what the Lord gives us. Okay, I know that the real mom ain't gonna let this child die. He's gonna just let him live like that. So he was able to use wisdom, and not necessarily even having the experience in that, but it came from the Lord. That's what he asked for, and the Lord gave it to him. You see what I mean? Where are we?
12.
Okay.
No.
13?
No, 13.
Okay, read verse 13.
I have also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any among the kings like unto thee all thy days. And if thou wilt walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandments, as thy father David did walk, then I will lengthen thy days. And Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and offered up burnt offerings and offered peace offerings, and made a feast to all his servants.
So the Lord, because he asked for the right things, he gave him what he wanted and more, because he understood this man was going to be able to deal with riches, which is what we all want in this world. And we think that that's what makes you a man. He gave him those things because he knew that he was going to be able to deal with them in righteousness. And a lot of the times we got to get out of our own way. And that's why we don't have riches, because the Lord can't trust us with it. But because he asked for the wrong things, the right things, and his heart was in the right place, the Lord gave him riches and power and all those different things. Now, Solomon did go off, but he also always did what? Repented and came back, just like his father. So that's the example of Solomon being a young man. He described himself as a little child because he lacked that wisdom and knowledge, so he asked for it. That's what our young men, we need to start directing them to ask for also. Not for money first, not for fame and all those different things. Ask for wisdom and understanding how to deal with things. So when you do get that money and you do get that position of leadership and power, you're going to deal correctly. And like I said, I was given a position of being a leader, and I wasn't prepared, because that can mess up a whole bunch of families doing that way. But some of our young men think 18 they're grown, but they lack the knowledge, they lack understanding. and they lack wisdom. And you see the results of that. So we're going to get, I mentioned from the age of 15 to 19. That's still considered a young man, a child almost. What age did the Lord consider you to be a man? We're going to get it. Go to the book of Numbers, chapter 1 and verse 44. And the world takes a lot of the things from the Bible. They didn't necessarily take this directly because they start us at 18, but Numbers 1 and verse 44.
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 44. These are those that were numbered, which Moses and Aaron numbered, and the princes of Israel, being 12 men, each one was for the house of his fathers. So were all those that were numbered of the children of Israel by the house of their fathers, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war in Israel.
So this explains two things. One, you're known by the seed of your father, not by your mother, right? So we're numbered by the seed of our father, and then those that are 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. So if you can go to war, that means you're a man. But now what did the world do? They say 18. So when you're about 20 years old, that's when you're supposed to be kind of ready to take on those responsibilities. But this world says 18, right out of high school. It's crazy because we're not bringing them up in the commandments and we're not preparing them for the world, but they're ready to go shoot somebody. It's crazy. But 20 is what it says biblically. You're a man, right? So we're going to get another example of a young man being years beyond his peers. And we'll keep that in mind. 20 years old is when they should go to war. 1 Samuel 17 and verse 12. And we're going to see the mindset of this young man and how he used wisdom and understanding to get the victory for Israel.
This is the book of Samuel, chapter
17 verse 12.
17 verse 12. Now David was the son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse, and he had 8 sons, and the man went among men for an old man in the days of Saul. And the 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle, and the names of his 3 sons that went to the battle were Eliab the firstborn, and next unto him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. And David was the youngest, and the 3 eldest followed Saul.
So the 3 eldest sons, so they had to be older than 20, right? But David was the youngest. They're going to war. Remember, you had to be at least 20 years old to go to war. David was the youngest. So did David go to war? So this proves that David was under the age of 20 when this is going on. He was a young man. They should speak, but there's a spirit in men. David had a special spirit in him. He was chosen. And we're going to see what that spirit actually enabled him to do. Jump down to verse 22. So this is another example of don't let somebody despise your youth. If you have the knowledge, which you know the law, you're keeping the commandments, and you're applying it with your understanding. Now, experience. That's the gray area right there. Did David have some experience with dealing with situations?
Yes, sir.
It wasn't what people thought, right? But he proved that his experiences that he had. Remember, you said something earlier about young men in training. You have the experiences. It may not be the same as older man may have, but it can you can equate certain things to certain situations. I say how you dealt with the fringes and calling it a dress. So they were trying to make fun of you keeping the commandments. So the next time that situation comes, how do you deal? Right? That's how you got to apply. But let's see how David applied his experiences in defeating Goliath. Let's read it. 1 Samuel 17 and verse 22.
And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage and ran into the army and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words. And David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, Have you seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up, and it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter. and make his father's house free in Israel.
So these men had experience in war. They were men of war. They had knowledge of how the Lord dealt with Israel and other nations because they read the scriptures. But they lacked the understanding in knowing that the Lord fought for them. And so they let fear creep in. They didn't have fear of the Lord. They had fear of man. If we had fear of the Lord, we would have went to war like, man, I don't give a dang what this so-called John is about. I know the Lord fight for us. Read on. I'm kind of giving it away, but read on.
And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, what shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?
So David knew something. What did he know? It says that he should defy the armies of the living God.
Oh, this is the Lord's battle.
Exactly.
It's not ours to even really worry about, because if you believe in the Lord, then you know that he's going to deliver you from whatever you're
exactly. Yeah. Good answer. Exactly. Read on verse 27.
And the people answered him after this manner, saying, so shall it be done to the man that killeth him. And Eliab his eldest brother heard when he spake unto the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, why camest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and the naughtiness of thine heart, for thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. And David said, what have I now done? Is there not a cause? And he turned from him toward another, and spake after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine.
Now you got to imagine, right? You got a little brother, and you see your little brother come down here to war. Like, man, get out, away from here. But how is David looking at his older brother like, man, what's wrong with y'all? He probably is disgusted. Like, we were brought up in the same household. We kept the commandments, and you're afraid of this dude? You read the histories of how the Lord fought for us. But the older brother probably just, you know how you do your little brother sometimes. Man, get out of here. That's how he's being treated. But David is fully convinced in his heart that he could defeat this man. Was it for vainglory? Was it for honor unto himself? Or was it to give the Lord the glory? We're going to read it. Let's read it.
In
verse 33.
And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth.
You see that? So David wasn't a man of war. He was a youth, and we just read that it's 20 years old to go to war. So David wasn't even 20 at this time. Read.
And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him.
Mm-hmm.
Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he had defied the armies of the living God.
What is David doing here? He's listing his what?
His experiences to what he's about to do.
Right. Listen to his experiences. This is his wisdom. He was able to beat these animals, mighty animals, a lion and a bear, because he understood that the Lord was on his side. He's going to do the same thing to Goliath. Verse 37.
David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put an helmet of brass upon his head. Also he armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him. And he took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in a scrip. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine.
And so this deals with experience also, right? Because he wasn't used to wearing that coat of mail, that armor. He dealt with 5 brook stones. So he used his experience to know how to deal with certain things. And he's going to use it against Goliath. Read. This is wisdom right here. He knew that what he could do with those stones and what it would cause to Goliath. Read verse 41.
And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the men that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied.
All praise to the Most High. He had that faith, man. Read verse 46.
This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel.
Read.
And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with the sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand.
That's what you were saying earlier. The battle is the Lord's. That he had the knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, the experiences to know that, man, God got me. David understood that. I want to jump up to verse where Goliath is calling him ruddy. Said he was ruddy and fair. That's having your youth despised. Ruddy means he was a handsome man. He was well put together. That's what David was. That's what those words mean. And that's that outward appearance. David was a handsome young man. He was well put together, and they despised him. Like, man, look at you, pretty. We call him a pretty boy, basically. You're a pretty boy. What you gonna do to me? But he had faith in the Most High. David understood. He had faith, and even though he was young, he was beyond his years because of wisdom and understanding and knowledge of the Most High. That's why he was able to defeat Goliath. While the other men, the older men, it should have taught wisdom, it should have taught understanding, but they had fear and not of the Lord. So these two men understood something. Being a man is foregoing yourself. That's why he was doing it, and putting others above yourself. It's about relying on the Most High and knowing where your power comes from. And we're going to end it here because ultimately, when you look at these two examples, these people had charity, they had love, they had faith in the Most High. And this is exactly what our young men need to have in becoming a man. Doing things for the right reasons, not for vainglory, not for look at me. The knowledge of the Lord and his laws, understanding what's required of you, and going through those experiences and applying that. David did that. That's why he put out the coat of mail. He said, man, give me these stones. I know how to use this. I know how to wield this.
This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I could remove mountains and have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing. Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
I wanted to read that again because it's going through charity. It's talking about charity, and it's talking about being a child. It's the giving of yourself. Children aren't necessarily like that. It's all about them sometimes. So becoming a man is doing all these things for the right reason. You having knowledge and understanding and using it for the right reason. You giving your body and giving to the poor, but you're doing it for the right reasons, not to look at yourself. It says charity suffereth long. It's that patience that it mentioned in Titus. Envieth. You ain't jealous of people. You're not trying to puff yourself up. Right? You're doing it for the right reason. That's what it means to be a man. That's what it means to follow the commandments and be a man of God. That's what it means. David showed it. Solomon showed it by the things that they asked, by the action that they showed. Read on verse 12.
For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. And now abideth faith, hope, charity. These three, but the greatest of these is charity.
Charity, love, and giving of yourself. That's what we need to be teaching our young men. Not to be all about them, not to look at them, because young men, y'all got a bravado about y'all. Y'all ego, which is not necessarily bad, but your ego needs to be in what? As David showed, he knew the Lord. He knew who fought for him. And once you get that, you're going to be a mighty young man. So that's the lesson today. The young men use of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. We gave some examples. And as we go forward, man, we're trying to raise the next generation to be better than us, to make better choices and be better men, better fathers, better brothers. So we can stop the stigma of the saying that there's no more good men. When they see my son, I want them to say, yeah, that's a good man right there. His father did a good job. And I hope we're on that path. You think we're on that path? All praise to the Most High. That's the lesson today, man. We got to teach our young men to use that knowledge, understanding, wisdom correctly. We're going to do these lessons every Monday and Wednesday at 10 a.m. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel at Royal Chosen Seed. Or you can follow us on the Facebook page at Elective Israel. That's all we got today. I hope it was edifying. He had Julian talk a lot more. Hopefully we can build them up so we can do a class. They do lessons. They used to do lessons. They had to bring something out on the Sabbath. But we're going to build them up to do it. I think you can do it, bro. Son. But that's all we got today. I hope it was edifying. We'll see y'all on Wednesday, Lord's willing. And with that, I say shalom, peace, and blessings.